Old friend. Well, thank you, Ken. I got into this field. You remember, how many of you here can remember Tom Peters? Famous guy. Oh, yeah, okay. Peters wrote a book in 1983 called In Search of Excellence. It was the best-selling business book in history up to that point. 6 million copies were sold in 83. And I knew Peters before he was famous. He was a consultant at McKinsey. I was a consultant at another company. We knew each other. And he came to me with this idea in the late 82. He knew that I liked training. I liked the training business. And he said, Larry, let's start a business together, a joint venture, based on, create a training seminar based on my book, In Search of Excellence. I said to myself, this can't be this. This book just sold 6 million copies. This is like a gift from heaven. So I put a really good job. I put a big mortgage on my house. Thank you to this day, my wife hasn't totally forgiven me for that. And we went into business with a corporate seminar called Toward Excellence in July of 83. In November of 84, I was in Tokyo trying to sell this darn seminar to Texas Instruments Japan. The Japanese HR manager says to me, Larry, have you seen this week's issue of Business Week magazine? Now, I still carry this to keep myself humble. And I said, no, I haven't. He says, well, it identifies why The Search of Excellence is a bunch of nonsense. 1/3 of the companies profiled by Tom Peters are now near bankruptcy. So the book's only been out 2 years. You know? So he asked me, here's the magazine right here. Oops, we made a mistake. Business Week. Now, if you're in business trying to sell a product based on this book, and Business Week hits the world with this article, let me tell you something. There's no way you're digging out of that hole, right? I don't care how smart of a salesman you are, okay? So I said to myself, I got a problem. This is an inside tip, right? If anybody ever comes to you with an idea that's too good to be true, watch out, all right? It probably is too good to be true. But the more important issue, not just my product problem, the more important issue for all of us is, if the best-selling business book in history didn't hold up for 24 months, what the hell's the truth? Where are we going to find the truth on how to grow a business and how to keep it vibrant? And what I've learned since those days, all these best-selling business books and all that, I mean, throw them in the trash, you know? They don't last 2 years, 3 years, you know? Most of these business books are just nuts. Anyway, so I came up with this idea that maybe I should research, maybe everybody's looking at the wrong period of time in the company life. You know, In Search of Excellence was all about IBM and Wayne. Remember Wayne Computer? You know? All those companies, those hot companies from the 80s. Right? But it's true that 33% of those great companies failed in 2 years, were failing. But even more importantly, over 100 years, from 1900 to 2000, that 100-year period, if you look at the 100 biggest American companies in the year 1900 to the year 2000, how many survived? 16. 84% went out of business of the biggest, strongest companies. So I got this, 70% of the Fortune 500, starting at 55, they're gone. So what we learned, if you look at the history of business, comes and goes. Now, when I was a kid, I thought General Motors and U.S. Steel were forever. I thought they were like the government. You know, they would never go away, you know? But now we know, oh, well, maybe not. So anyway, I thought, we're looking at the wrong era. Why don't we look at the first 10, 20, 30 years of these companies and see what Walt Disney did to create Disney? See what founders of great companies like IBM, what did they actually do to get to one? Maybe those lessons are at least worth knowing. And maybe it'll keep them alive. So that's how we got started in this. A lot of little entrepreneurial businesses, I get started by necessity like mine. You had to find something else to do because my business was going to drop like a rock in a pond, you know? Okay, so high growth practices of great entrepreneurs. I began to look at entrepreneurs. What did they do? What did Steve Jobs do? What did Walt Disney do? Blah, 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 and so on. And remember I said the entrepreneurship travels. Well, I'm very proud to say, actually, I've written 4 books. All 4 of my books, there's 3 of them, all been published in China. And I like that. That's good. You know, China's a big, important market today. I was in Beijing a couple years ago talking to this editor, Li Zhong, they published my second book, the yellow one there in the middle. And for a short time, it was actually on the bestseller list in the China business book market. So I was quite proud. I said to her, oh, I'm so proud of the book. She, like a typical good Chinese business lady woman, she says, don't be too proud, Larry. Any book with the word entrepreneur on it will be a bestseller in China. Right? So here's another tip for any of you authors, okay? The cover is really important for the book, all right? But anyway, it's global. And here's the one and only, Dr. Drucker. The management guru of the 20th century, the best management thinker of the 20th century. He died in 2004. Right? I was giving this talk in Taiwan. Peter Drucker was sitting right here in the front. He was already 88 years old, had a cane, hearing aid, listening to me. And as you'll hear in a minute, I give general management and management education a pretty rough time. I think it's a bunch of nonsense. Right? I got a Harvard MBA, so I can say that with great clarity. So I thought, he came up and Drucker gave the luncheon speech after hearing me talk, and I thought, boy, if Peter Drucker comes up here and says, this Larry Farrell's full of crap, that's going to be the second time my career's taken a nosedive, But he didn't, bless his heart, He came up and he said, bigger is better turned out to be another 20th century myth, and Larry has explained why. And here's what Drucker was talking about. He liked this. This is our little research. Everyone has to have a little research model. This is ours. Looking at companies, every organization, yours included, goes through this life cycle. Startup time. If you've ever been in the startup business, or you've ever started a business, you'll know that's a very exciting time. You've got 2 or 3, 5 employees, right? And you're very excited, and you're desperately looking for a customer because it's the only way to get paid, you see? So you're excited. It's an exciting time. Now, we know the statistics are pretty brutal. About 2 out of 3 startups fail. 1 out of 3 successful. Number one reason for failure of startups? Number one reason. Not lack of money, not lack of management know-how. It's because the company, the entrepreneur, couldn't come up with a product anybody wanted to buy. It's a simple reason, lack of a good product or service. That's the number one reason for failure of small business. Okay. If you're lucky enough, Apple computer, if you're lucky enough to have a good product, you begin to grow. And in today's world, as you know, growth can be high, very fast, 10, 20, 30% per year. So you go into phase 2, a period of high growth. Now, the high growth phase can last 20, 30 years. Quite a long time. Startup phase, about 5 to 10 years. The period of high growth, 20 to 30 years in there. And that period of high growth is also very exciting. You can hardly, you're just pushing product out the door. You can hardly meet the market demand. It's a very exciting time, right? Everyone's happy, right? Then reality begins to sit in. You're now, as AFS is, 30 years old, right? And you notice something. Things beginning to slow down a little bit. Now, I'm not saying this is happening with AFS, all right? But just this time. Things beginning to slow down, you notice, huh? Decisions that used to take a couple of hours to make now take a couple of months. You used to want to spend $100 to do something. You go to the top manager, the entrepreneur. He says yes or no in 5 minutes. Now you want to spend $100. You got to submit a capital acquisition or capital request. It goes to a committee. They may hire consultants to look at these things. Several vice presidents have to look at it. 6 months later, you get the answer, no, you can't spend $100. It takes you 6 months to find out, Another thing you learn, because you've been successful, and you've grown 25% for 25 years, what happens? Mathematics. You become busy. You can't help it. Used to be 5 people, now you're 500 or 5,000. You see? Well, with 5 people, you don't need an HR person. You can do your own HR, thank you very much. With 500 or 5,000, you gotta hire one of these fancy HR types, They gotta come in, they come in with their big policy books, you know, all this, sensitivity training, all that crap, you know. And you find out you got some 28-year-old HR person telling you how to hire, how to train people, how to fire people, everything, how to keep them motivated, the whole world, you see. We didn't used to have that, now we got that. Another thing that happens, when you've got 5 people, the CEO can be his own finance man. But now, just like HR, we gotta hire all these financial professionals. They come in and they also have a big book. It's called Financial Controls, all right? Number 1 goal in life is to prevent you from spending money. Right? So you got a big finance department, a big HR department, a big legal department, right? And who's thinking about product and customer anymore? Practically nobody, you see? Now, the other thing that happens at 30, 35 years of age, and I've seen this happen over and over again, the original entrepreneur and entrepreneurial team, they're now 65. It's time to retire. They go to, where do they go? Scottsdale, Sedona, somewhere, you know? They want to retire. They leave. Huh? It's been, I've almost never seen an entrepreneur who retires, leaves, replace himself with another entrepreneur. Who do they hire? They reach into the bottomless pit of MBAs and pull out one of these bright young people and make them CEO, you see? So here you are, a growing bureaucracy, slowing down all kinds of rules and regulations, run by a bunch of MBAs. It's a recipe for disaster, okay? All right, beginning of the end. Now, so then, you go to phase 3. Now, think about where your company is. In phase 3, you begin to decline. Your growth goes from 20% down to 15, then 10, now you're hanging on to 3% growth. You're happy if you get 3% per year, you know? Decline. Now, this is the age in big companies. This is interesting. When the big corporations call in those expensive, fancy, New York-based, usually, management consultants, and I used to be one. When I got out of Harvard Business School, everyone in my class, we only took 1 or 2 jobs. There were 2 jobs that people took. Either became an investment banker or a management consultant. None of us did honest work, all right? Those are the 2 jobs we liked best, all right? So I became a management consultant type. So I can say this with some authority. At that time, that's when they call in the management consultant. I can tell you honestly, every assignment I was on, we made the situation worse for the client. We had no idea what was wrong with these big companies. These were big, sophisticated companies. They had a CEO making $10, $15 million a year, and he couldn't figure it out. How the hell could I figure it out? Okay, I'm 28 years old. What did I know? So you can't solve the problem. The consultants drive you faster down the road to decline, and you go into phase 4, which is decline, survival, and death. 86% of America's companies go this way. Okay? All right. So we learned there's 2 styles here. Let me back up here. On the left-hand side of the chart, the dominant style of the company is entrepreneur. And I'm not quite sure what that is yet, but it's entrepreneur. You get over to the right-hand side, the dominant style is managerial. All right? Management theories, management practice, all that, you know, we know what they are. Planning, Drucker told us this in 1946. Planning, leading, organizing, controlling, the key practices of good management. All right? We know what they are. But we're not we know that, and I'm sure you've had many courses on that. You know that. The question for most big companies, though, is not how to manage. They know how to manage. The question is how to grow, which is the job of the entrepreneurs. So what do the entrepreneurs do? What are the practices of the entrepreneurs? What do Walt Disney do? What do Steve Jobs do? What do Bill Gates do? What do Richard Branson in the UK do? What do they do? I'm quite sure. All right, so we have these 2 styles now. On the left, the magic of entrepreneurship, this Disney World in Orlando. We call it magic because we're not quite sure what it is. On the left-hand side is the Baker Library, Harvard Business School, the science of management. I think I went in there one time in 2 years. Right? Didn't understand a thing I was reading. Science of management. Right? Someone told me recently, Larry, you're too harsh on the MBA culture of American business culture, because now, if you go into these big MBA campuses, Stanford, Harvard, you name it, you're going to find all the foreigners come there. I mean, all of our tough competitors, the Chinese, the Japanese, the Germans, they all come. They want the American MBA. So there must be something good about it. These are the tough competitors. And I said, no. You understand? This is America's new secret strategy. We give enough of these clowns an MBA, we'll get our market back. Right? Okay? Right. I'm glad I'm not talking to a group of MBAs. That's nice. Any of you out there that happen to have an MBA, it's a cross we have to bear, so don't worry. All right, so what are the 4 practices of entrepreneurship? Here they are. Number 1, and this is something just for your interest, and you can carry this back into your job. But these are things that are, I think, going to be proven and interesting for you. I've never met an entrepreneur who didn't think that what he or she was doing was important. They all think what they're doing is world-beating, you know? And they love what they do, they're interested in it. And one thing I've learned, I've interviewed so many of these people, they actually talk too much, you know? I mean, they're so obsessed with their product, whatever their product is, you know? And so I've learned over the years, except when I want to interview them for a book or something, I've learned, like I get on a long flight, I don't want, if I'm sitting next to a young entrepreneur, I don't want to hear this anymore. I don't want to talk to them, you know? So this is a true story. This is about 15 years ago, 10 years ago. I was flying San Francisco, Singapore. This is about 17, 18 hours in the air, nonstop. Long flight. So it's important who you sit next to, right? I'm looking next to me, this guy. We're still on the tarmac in San Francisco. He doesn't actually look like an entrepreneur. He looks like an athlete. He looks well built and very strong. So I said to myself, okay, I'll take a chance. You know? I turn to this young guy in the seat and I say, how are you? God, what a mistake. Right? He starts talking to me about his damn product that he had invented. He was an entrepreneur from Seattle, Washington. Very entrepreneurial town, actually. Let's have a sip of water here. He was an entrepreneur. And what was his product? He had invented, it's a true story, he had invented a machine that made perfect artificial sand for the sand traps of golf courses. Okay? Now, I don't play golf. I don't watch it on TV. All due respect to you avid golfers out there, I don't understand it. You hit the ball, you walk along, you hit it again, like tiddlywinks for adults, right? Anyway, this guy, this honest to God truth, this guy talks to me about this stupid machine he had made for 18 hours all the way to Singapore, you know? I didn't know there was so much to learn about sand traps, you know? But the fact is, he had that. He had a sense of mission about his business. And it turns out that loving what you do gives you tremendous competitive advantage. And your employees, if they love and respect what you do. Tremendous competitive advantage. Okay? Practice number 2. Keep that in mind. Sense of mission. Practice number 2. Oh, sorry. Okay. Customer product vision. To any entrepreneur, the 2 most important words in the world are customer and product. You cannot have a business without these 2 things, okay? Entrepreneurs think about this 24 hours a day. They dream about customer and product. They wake up in the morning thinking, how can I improve the product? Where can I find another customer? Blah, 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 that sort of thing. This is their life, all right? Now, you'll notice that we've tried to make it into one word because the great entrepreneurs, Steve Jobs, Disney, on and on,
They don't see these as two separate disciplines. This is an integrated concept. Who will buy this product? Product, customer, product, customer. So we try to make it into one thought. Customer/product. And a final word on management training in business schools. You go into business school, the very first thing they want to do is slot you into a slot, either production or finance or marketing, so you're separated. You never get the entrepreneur beauty of looking at customer and product together as an integrated idea, basically, okay? As Steve Jobs said, managing is the easy part. Inventing the world's next great product for people is what's hard in business. Okay, number 3, and this won't surprise, the theme of the conference, innovation. Hugely important, of course, to entrepreneurs. In today's world, though, we call it high-speed innovation. Innovation just by itself could be research, university-based, whatever, ivory tower, not so useful. What we need is innovations that get implemented with speed and action. And in fact, maybe in many industries, maybe true in yours too, speed may be more important than just pure old innovation today. Moving quickly, Akil Morita, the great founder of Sony, said, moving quickly is the entrepreneur's secret weapon. It's the easiest, cheapest way to beat the competition. Move faster. High-speed innovation, number 3. And finally, number 4, this may not surprise you either. Yes, entrepreneurs are self-inspired, self-motivated. This is important. If we could package this, if we could get everyone self-inspired, we could eliminate poverty in 15 years. I'm sure we could. You know, it's a really powerful thing to be self-inspired, self-motivated. Now, where does it come from for the entrepreneur? I think it comes from 2 places. Number 1, it comes from sense of mission. If you love what you do, you're pretty interested in it, right? You're gonna want to get up and go do it. So they have this sense of mission. But secondly, an old-fashioned word, consequences. They gotta face the consequences of their performance every Friday afternoon when they open the cash register if they're a small business, you see. Consequence is terribly important to the entrepreneur, all right? If she opens a flower shop here in Phoenix, has nice flowers, low price, customers come in, she's very pleasant to them. End of the week, she opens the till box, $1,000. She goes home, tells her kids, her husband, whoever, made $1,000 this week. We can feed the kids, pay the mortgage, everything's happy. Positive consequence for positive result, for performance. If her flowers are old and wilted, the price is too high, she's unfriendly to customers, people come in her shop, she turns her back, you know. End of the week, she opens a till box, 0. She has to go home and say, can't feed the kids. So to the entrepreneur, this is serious business. I think this is what keeps him moving. Now, I learned this, how opposite it can be at big business in America. Now, I know I looked at the client list here. We have small companies here, medium-sized, but we have some giants too. I worked at American Express for a while. As someone said, giant company, nice company. Oh, they treat you well as an executive or whatever there, you know. But I learned something interesting at American Express, and I don't know if it would be true at your company or not. I worked in the international bank part. If I brought in $15 million one month in deposits, say from Saudi Arabia or somewhere, had a really good one, $15 million in those days, a good one. I remember my paycheck. It was $1,250 I wanted to take home pay. I remember very well. My rent in New York was $600, so I wasn't living like a king. But anyway, $1,250. Next month, I didn't have that great of a month. I only run in $1 million. Opened my pay, end of the month, my paycheck came $1,250 again. I thought, wow, this is interesting. I bring in $15 million, I get $1,250. I bring in $1 million, I get the same. So I'm smart, I've been to Harvard. I'm going to try an experiment. I'm not going to do a damn thing next month, see what happens. So I went into work, didn't do anything. Now in American Express, this is what I don't know if it's true in your company. We had senior executives there who had learned the art of sleeping with their eyes open. In their office, they're like this. They'd go to a meeting like this, you knew they were asleep, but their eyes were open. So I did that for 30 days. I slept with my eyes open. Didn't do a damn thing all month. End of the month, my paycheck came, how much? $12.50. See, they know all this, kid. All right? It's common sense. Self-inspired. Okay. Disney, I think, encapsulated all those four things. He said this: the inclination of my life has been to do things and make things which will give pleasure to people in new and amazing ways. By doing that, I please and satisfy myself. The inclination of my life, the mission of my life, professional mission of my life, has been to make things, products, which will give pleasure to people, customers, products, customers, in new and amazing ways. Innovative, something creative, see? By doing that, I please and satisfy myself. I am inspired by my work. I'm self-inspired from my work. You don't need to send me to a Tony Robbins seminar. I'm inspired already. That's, I love what I do. Huh? Sense of mission, customer product, high-speed innovation, self-inspired behavior. Okay, now here's us instilling corporate entrepreneurship, and you're in a wonderful position. This is why I was so glad that AFS asked me to come, because it's the systems people, the IT systems, process people. You're in the driver's seat for practices in the company, what people pay attention to and that sort of thing. You have great influence. Maybe you don't always feel you do, but you do. You have great impact on a company culture, the practices of the company, procedures, so on. So that's why it's a good opportunity for me to talk to you. These are some of our clients. They're all big companies. As I said, they want to beat the life cycle, of course. Right? Now let's look at the case. The most famous case currently is Apple, of course, Apple Computer, who beat the life cycle. 1998, Apple was almost bankrupt. Remember, they had less than $5 million in the bank. They had hired this guy. The board kicked Steve Jobs off, saying, as sometimes boards do, you know about running $1 billion business. You're just a computer geek. You're an entrepreneur. You don't know anything about running a business. So they booted him out the door. And they hired this idiot from PepsiCo, John Scully. I was at Harvard with John. Tells you something about Harvard. You know, John came in and drove this beautiful company almost into bankruptcy, you know. Finally, out of desperation, the board brings the entrepreneur Jobs back. Jobs came back for $1 a year, came back, took over. Apple, the richest company in America today, 15 years later. Unbelievable. So, can you reverse the fortunes of a company? Of course you can. This is a good example. Okay. Anybody here from Unilever? Unilever? Okay. Give them a hand. Unilever has the best longevity record of the past 100 years. In the year 1900, Unilever was the biggest company in the world. In the year 2000, it was number 40 on the Global 1000. Very good record, the best. It's the best record I can find of any big company. All right? What's their secret? Okay, you have great products. We know that. You have great products. But you treat your people well. William Lever invented the idea of employee ownership. In the year 1925, they had 18,000 employee owners, and we still have companies today scratching it. Gee, should we have employee owners? Huh? It's a tremendous offer to employees to get them involved in the company. Anyway, Unilever is the winner for the century, and I put that on there just for you. Corporate entrepreneurship, all about growth. And according to the Commerce Board, number one issue of CEOs around the world is how to grow the business. It's not how to do this or that, it's how to grow. You know, organic growth, real growth, true growth, number one issue. So if you want the CEO's ear, develop systems and plans and processes that support growth of the business, you know? Yes, I'm all for efficiencies and reducing costs and all that, but what about growth? What about marketing schemes and processes that find new customers, blah, 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 whatever. Okay, what you want to do, the role of corporate entrepreneurship is to keep the sense of mission alive as you grow. Keep people loving the business, excited about it. You know, you can go into some companies today and the employees don't even know what the products are. You know, have you ever seen that in a big company? It's terrible. Okay. Reinstilling this customer product vision in every employee. Now, every employee doesn't need to be an expert in customer product, but you want every employee to respect the customer product, to admire them, to be proud of them, you know, what you're doing. Number 3, what can we do to foster more innovation here? Can we implement some processes and benchmark strategies and so on that really get everyone involved in innovation in the company? Innovation, huh? And finally, self-inspired behavior. On the sense of mission side, if you're lucky, biotech industry, this is the Decode Genetics, the great company in Iceland. Iceland's biggest company. Fabulous company. This guy, Stephenson, I read about Iceland, his company. He was a medical doctor, became an entrepreneur. Because he realized in Iceland, his little country, it's a great genetic testing pot because no one goes to Iceland. It's a pure set of people. They're all Vikings. And they brought over a few Irish slaves, so it's 90% Viking and 10% Irish, all right, in Iceland. So, biggest company in Iceland, very successful. So I went over to Iceland to Reykjavik to interview him. I found out why no one goes to Iceland. Too damn cold, you know? I went in January, I couldn't believe it was so cold. Huh? But what he figured out was because they're all homogeneous, perfect genetic testing. It's a power of an idea, huh? You want to study breast cancer, you take 500 Icelandic women with breast cancer, you compare their genomes to 500 who don't have breast cancer, you get the market for breast cancer, see? Smart. He said to me, he said, you couldn't do this in New York City. Too messed up, you know, too much of a melting pot, right? They're studying 12 major diseases. They're making great progress on Alzheimer's and MS so far. Richest man in Iceland, by the way. Not that he wanted to be, but he is. Simpson mission, here's the great Japanese. Here's an old timer. Matsushita. Matsushita told his people something really simple and important. The 2 most important concepts in setting business strategy: do we know the market need of our products, and do we know the competitive position each of our products holds against the best competition? We have this in our seminar, this little lecture. It's an eye-opener. It's wonderful, simple, right there, bird's eye view of your business. You line them up, your products. What is really the market need for this? How big, small, market growing? And what's the competitive position of every product? This is the Bible still today in Massachusetts, Panasonic. Customer product. Here's the great Steve Jobs. Vision. The computer is the most remarkable tool we've ever built, so it's a great product. But the most important thing about computers is to get them in the hands of many people as possible. Huh? He said, we can make a computer that we can all use at home. Personal computers, small, huh? So he combines his product expertise and his feel for the marketplace, customer product vision. So was Steve Jobs a product expert or a customer expert? He's both. Was Walt Disney a product genius or a customer genius? He was both. You see, you'll find this in most entrepreneurs. And if you don't have it in one person, you team up with someone. Daimler-Benz. Daimler was the salesman, Benz invented the engine, the 2-stroke engine, you see. Hewlett-Packard. Hewlett was the salesman, Packard was the scientist. So you can get a partner, team up, and have the same customer product vision. Her name was named Mercedes. The daughter of the biggest Daimler automobile, used to be called the Daimler, was in Vienna. His daughter's name was Mercedes. This guy wanted to switch from Mercedes to Peugeot. Gottlieb Daimler goes down to Vienna, says, we'll do anything you want. Tell us what you want to keep selling our car, Daimler car. He says, put my daughter's name on it, as a joke. Huh? He said, okay, what's her name? Mercedes. He goes back to Stuttgart, Germany, puts a word on it, Mercedes. That's how the name was. Now, I don't expect all you companies to be putting the names of the daughters of your customers on anything, but you get the point. Now here's we grow the old-fashioned way. If you're concentrated on customers and products, you know that you have Current customers, C, current customers and new and potentially new customers, current and new, products the same, current products, and you can have new products up here. If you follow this matrix, these 4 boxes are the only 4 ways to grow your business. This would make a great process in a marketing process, you know, study this every 6 months. Box 1, current customers, current products. Box 2, current products to new customers. That's the most typical way to grow a business. Box 3, you have loyal customers, they're buying this, maybe they'll buy this. New products for current customers. And box 4, new products for new customers. Finally, my one South American example for the day, dry wash. Have you heard of the product? How to wash your car with no water. It's unbelievable in this day and age when fresh water is running out everywhere in the world. Rito Rodriguez in Sao Paulo, he came up with a scheme, a bio-friendly chemical cleaning system that uses no water and almost no electricity. He's got 600 car washing facilities now in Brazil. He's the car wash king of the world. You know? The power of an idea. He wasn't even a chemist, just a kid with an idea, innovation. Okay, high speed. Here's the current day champion, 3M. Best record still in the country. Highest percentage of new product revenue of any Fortune 500 company, 3M, still today. Runs 25, 30, 32% per year. They define a new product as anything invented within the past 5 years. How do they do it? The number one core, Jenna talked about core values. 3M only has one core value, invent something. No? You invent it, you get to run that business. That's very unusual in American industry. No? Scientist invents a product, if he wants to, he gets a chance to run the business. No? Where does most of the ideas come from at 3M? They say themselves, accidents, mistakes, and failures. And they even give their scientists daydreaming time. They have daydreaming rooms in the 3M factories and plants. You go in there, and you're 15% of the week you can daydream. Now this one, any boss, you got to ease up on this a little. You got to get into this slowly. You can't just say to people, go daydream, you know? No, you got to do productive daydreaming, all right? 3M. Application, how do we encourage innovation, speed up action, wipe out bureaucracy? Advertisement. Later this afternoon, I'm holding a 45-minute session, one of the breakout sessions, just on this topic, innovation in your company. Find out those self-inspired behavior. Sarah Walker, America's first self-made woman millionaire. Self-inspired. This idea didn't come from business school. This came from a guy named Jule Messer in Virginia. He owns a big landscaping company. I read about him in the paper. $25 million landscaping company. And he's blind. I read in the paper, he's blind. I said to myself, how does a blind guy run a landscaping business? So I go interview him. I want to go interview him. I'm sitting with Mr. Messer, and while I'm talking to him, interviewing, I learned he also spent time in prison. He was a criminal. And I said to him, Mr. Messer, what was your crime? Cattle rustling. Cattle rustling. I said, how does a blind guy rustle cattle? He says, not very well, it's where I got caught. So I went into landscaping, okay? Sometimes you hit a gem like him in the interview business. Once again, sense of mission, customer product vision, high-speed innovation, self-inspired behavior. And so we call it Instilling Corporate Entrepreneurship. Have a wonderful conference. Thank you so much for having me. Bye-bye.